Alright, today we'll cover Apache Ant. It's a Java library and also a command line tool that helps with building software. So you can also use Ant with Eclipse. Before I start Ant, I want to cover some basics of XML so we can understand Ant. XML is a markup language. It stands for Extensible Markup Language. It's just like HTML. HTML is used to display data on the web, but XML is used to describe data or information. And with XML, you write the tags for XML. Here I have a short example for XML. This is known as a prologue for XML. This declares the version of XML and the encoding that is used. This is UTF-8, which is an 8-bit of encoding for ASCII characters that you know of. In XML, each of these is called an element, and you can have elements inside elements. Each element has an end. So this element tag has an ending tag, which starts with a front slash. And inside this element, we have other elements. What we are doing in this particular example is we are describing email. So we have an email group and we have a set of emails. So we have this email right here, and we have another email here. Okay, so inside that email we have some information about that email. What do we have here? We have a to, a from, a subject, a message. Inside message we have a header, a body, and a footer, and we have the message closing tag. So inside this element as well we have multiple other elements, and that's our group. Okay, this particular thing over here for an element email is its attribute. So this is how we define attributes for each element. So this element has an attribute called date, which says the date is this. So the specification for an XML is not defined, so you define your own XML. And in this case you probably wanted to store some information about some emails, and that's why you describe this information. A few rules and suggestions about email, about XML. The attributes for XML are coded. If you don't code them, it's wrong, it's not valid. And the elements are case sensitive, so you cannot have email and something inside there and then have a small e while you're closing that. So this has to be consistent. Okay, so this has to be email, or this can be email as well. Okay, use attributes for metadata. So mostly don't use dates like this. You can have a group called date, and you can have something like date, close date, and then here you can have day, month, and year. Okay, in here you'll have that information. So generally use attributes for metadata. What is metadata? It is data about data. So for example, if you had an ID for email, you just say email ID 1. This ID has nothing to do with email, right? It's just for our use. So we wanted to know something about email, saying okay, this is the first email, that's why we put some data over here, which is the metadata for this email. But date is a valid element for email, right? we might want to know that each email has a date, so this you might want to keep it inside rather than making an attribute out of it. Okay, so that's just a short introduction to XML. All we need to remember is we have elements and we have nested elements, and elements have attributes for now, for ent. Okay, and with ent, what you do is you just download a zip file and you extract it. What I have here is I extracted that to my C drive DevTools folder. This is my ent distribution, and here I just extracted that file. So after that, I add it to my path, where I have declared a system level variable called ant_home, which points to that directory, and then I have added that to my path. Okay, I just added here somewhere here. So that's what you do, and then after that you can go to your command line, and if you do ant -version, it will give you the version of the current ant distribution, which is 1.9.3. Okay, and after that, let's start with ant. So I have a small project in Eclipse. It just prints out hello world, it does nothing more. For an ant, to build with ant, what you need to do is you have this build.xml file. Okay, it has to be named build.xml. It's an XML file, so the extension is XML. This looks just like the XML that we just saw, right? And in here we have some information that helps your ant distribution to build this project. So when we build this project, you probably want to compile it, you will probably want to run it, you want to do things like that with it, right? So here what we have is it starts with a project element. It has an attribute called name. Name is hello world, so this project's name, we're calling it hello world. Okay, and the base directory is dots, that is we are starting right over here. Okay, and the current directory, which is hello world _cout, and default is main. So default main means if I don't give anything to ant, it will run this target. Okay, I'll talk about targets just in a bit. So it will run this thing. So that's the default if I don't tell ant to do anything. And in here I have some properties. Okay, so we are defining this so ant knows how to read properties. So we are defining these properties ourselves, and this properties attribute is source.dir. So I'm just saying source directory, the value of this is source. So this source directory over here is my source dir. I'm defining that. Okay, it doesn't have to be in this format, but I'm saying this source directory, I'll refer to that later as src.dir. Same thing with these, the build directory, build.dir. And for classes directory, how I refer to properties is using this $sign. So I have a $sign, and then I have open curly braces, build.dir, and close curly braces. And in here I have classes. So what I'm saying is for my classes directory, I want to go inside build, and inside build I want to have a classes directory for my classes directory, right? So this build.dir will refer to that, which will say the value is build, and build/classes is the value for classes dir. For jar.dir, where I want to put my jar, I want it under build/jar. Okay, so this way I could reuse that. I didn't have to type build again and again. I just said refer to this. So later on, if I change this, this will work. I don't have to change it at multiple places, correct? So down here we have some targets. So in ant we have these things called target. So this is just an element, this closes right here, right? And this is a self-closing. So we are closing this element right here with a /, okay, at the end. So we don't have to do /property. Do you get it? So because we don't have any information here, all the information is in the attributes, right? So it is a self-closing element. So we closed it right here. and here this is not self-closing. The ending tag is here, the opening tag is here. We are naming this clean. So these are predefined targets that we have to define over here. So these are declared in Ant's distribution. So Ant knows how to read this, but in here we need to do some things that we define. So for clean, what I'm saying is delete my build directory. So whenever Eclipse compiles your classes, compiles your files over here, it will put it inside the build directory classes, right? That's what I'm gonna do. So what I want to do to clean is I want to clean that. I want to delete that directory, build directory completely. So I don't want this jar, I don't want this classes. So I want to delete that when I clean it, okay? And when I compile it, what I want to do is I want to make that directory first, called classes, right? And I want to do a Java C. So Java C is just the compiling process that's going on, and this is the source directory. I want the source directory to be src.dir, which is src, and then the destination directory to be classes.dir. So I want to compile everything inside source, which is my source directory, right? src.dir is src right here. So I want to compile everything under here, and I want that to be under my classes directory. That's my destination directory. So that's what I want to do when I compile. And what do I want to do when I jar it? So when I jar it, this depends on compile, meaning, so there is another attribute here called depends, which has the value compile. So what this means is whenever Ant tries to run this target jar, depend on this. Okay, so run this first and then run jar. That's what it means. So when I want to jar the class files, I want to first compile them, right? So I'll compile them first and then I'll jar them. So first what I'll do is I'll make this directory called jar.dir, which is right here, and then in here I have this destination file, so jar/and.project.name. So and.project.name is right here. Okay, so that's my project name. So this property will find its name over here. So this is my jar directories right here, and then here I want the jar to be named hello world.jar. Got it? So the project name is hello world, which comes out of here, right? And then I have a .jar, so that's what it names over here. Okay, and then I have a base directory called classes.dir. So my base directory is classes.dir. So I want to jar everything under here, classes, and put it over here, right? So my dest file is that, and my base directory is over there. And I have a manifest. The manifest is gives you some information about the class. So this manifest name is main class, and then the main class is, the value is this. So this manifest file will be stored inside your jar as well. Okay, and this is your jar target. Now after that I have a run target, which depends on jar. So if I tell Ant to run this project, it will first go to jar, and jar depends on compile, so it will go back to compile. So it starts at compile, it will compile, and it will jar, and then it will run. So what does run do? It will call the Java command. We know the Java command to run the project, right? So we just say java jar and jar.dir/ant.project.name.jar fork true. Fork will fork a new thread. You don't have to worry about this for now. So java jar will give you this jar directory/ant.project.name.jar. So it will run this jar. Okay, and we have some other targets. We just made this for our own sake. So we have a target called clean build. So what this will do is it will clean and jar both. Okay, so we don't have to do both of these targets one by one. Okay, so we'll just do a clean build. And we have a target main, which depends on clean run. Okay, so it will do a clean and then it will do a run if we do main, which is our default, right? So whenever we don't give anything to Ant, it will run this target, which will do a clean and then a run over here. So what I'll do right here is I'll right click on this build.xml file, and I'll go on run as, and run as, you'll see there is a thing called ant build. Okay, so if I run this ant build, what it did was it found the build file build.xml, it cleaned, right, and it compiled. So here it said it deleted the directory first, right, it compiled, it said creating directory this, and this will do, there was some kind of warning, it threw some warning over there, and then it compiled the two source files that I had. It created an empty package.info.class, and it jarred them. It first created a directory called jar under build, right, because we had this build directory, and then we jarred them over here, so we have hello world.jar, and we run it finally, and the run output is hello world, and we're done. So build successful, total time it took was 8 seconds. So we can also do this from the command line. I'm right inside that project in the command line. So if we do ant clean, it will run the clean target. Okay, so it just cleaned, right? So if I do ant, what was the, okay, I'll do a clean build. Okay, so if I do ant clean build, so clean, I had nothing to do because I already deleted the directory, so it didn't do anything, and it compiled the classes, it jarred them, and we're done. And if we do ant run, you know, run depends on jar and jar depends on compile, so we started back at compile, and we did not compile anything, we did not jar anything, we already have those, and we finally did the run command, which outputs hello world, and we're done.